Are rechargeable batteries a practical solution for the mobile DJ? Let's get technical on this. Alright everybody, before we start the video, please navigate down, hit that subscribe button, make sure you ding that notification bell as well. Also make sure to like the video, and please, if you want to support the channel, head over to my Patreon page and subscribe. After spending years going through trashing 8, 12, 16 batteries per wedding, I was starting to get a bit concerned. I knew these batteries were just really not that great to dispose of, and it just seemed that there was a lot of money that I was just throwing down the drain. But are rechargeable batteries any good? I remember years, just people complaining about how quickly they would discharge, that they just weren't even as good as your typical nickel cadmiums that you buy off the shelf. But I had heard of a couple batteries that were worth a look, and one of those was the Panasonic eneloop Pro. So let's compare the two. Will the rechargeable battery hold up to the nickel cadmium, especially in long-term use? For this experiment, I'm putting in the ring the Duracell Pro Cell, which is probably one of the most used batteries in the event space, versus the Panasonic eneloop Pros. These are batteries that provide about the same milliamp hour ratings. The Pro Cell is rated at 2500 milliamp hours. The eneloop says it's about 2400 milliamps to 2550. Also, these eneloop Pros have been used for about a year. I bought them, and now they've had about 35 charging cycles since I got them. And because of that, some of these are a little unevenly drained. I try to do my best to mix batteries up every chance I get, so this way I kind of evenly distribute the wear on them. To charge my batteries, I've invested in this Tenergy, I think it's the RN162. It's an 8-bay charger, which allows you to charge your nickel metal hydride batteries and nickel cadmium batteries. The eneloops are nickel metal hydride, and they're listed as low self-discharge batteries. So this is meant for essentially high-use drain devices like camera flashes, flashlights, and the like. So let's see how they work in microphones, IEMs, and lav packs. Panasonic lists the eneloop Pros to be rechargeable for up to 500 times, and it's supposed to maintain an 85% charge for 1 year. Well, we're going to put that to the test, because now that I've had my batteries for a little while, we can check that out. So in this test, I'm going to be using 3 different devices. It's a Sennheiser SKM100G3 microphone. I've got a Sennheiser SK100 lav pack, and then I also have a Sennheiser EK300 IEM pack. I'm going to do an initial test run of 8 rechargeable batteries just to kind of get an initial baseline. I'm going to run that for 7 hours, which is typically the runtime that one would use for ceremony reception, or maybe even just reception. Then after that, I'm going to do a 6-on-6 test, 6 rechargeable batteries in a mic, lav pack, and IEM pack, versus the same 3 devices with the Pro Cell batteries. Then we're going to run them through till at least one of the devices goes to a low battery indicator and see what we have. I'm going to be taking measurements with this Lumi oscillator multimeter. It's like 80 bucks, so it's actually a really good investment. And because it's an oscilloscope, you can actually tell if you're running a pure sine wave, a modified sine wave, a square wave, which if you watch my UPS episodes and whatnot, you'll understand the reasoning behind that. So it's really handy to have one of these. One of the first things that I'm going to do is check the store capacity of the eneloop batteries. And to my surprise, when I checked them, they're only charged around 49 to 50%. And I remembered that I just charged them like 2 weeks prior or so. I honestly expected it like 60% or more. And when I went ahead and I topped them off, they capped out at 71 to 72%. Now, according to Panasonic, the eneloop will hold the charge to 85%, as I said before. And I'm calculating this by taking the voltage, and then I'm subtracting 1.1 and timesing it by 2. It's a very oversimplified measurement, but at least gives us a pretty decent ballpark of what the stored state is on the batteries. So as I mentioned before, the first test I did was just running 8 rechargeable batteries, and this way I could get a baseline load to expect what to come up in my comparison test with the nickel cadmiums. I decided to charge my batteries, but then let them sit for just a little while so there would be some drain on it, and I ran them for 7 hours. And it's more than 1 hour than what I'll typically run them at anyways, and the results were pretty much what I have experienced over the year. Nothing fell short during that whole period. Nothing actually indicated of ultra low battery life, so that was great. And when I started the test, it came in at an average of 67.4% charge. By the time I finished up, it was at 27.5. Now for the second run, as I mentioned, I wanted to compare these to the Pro Cell NiCads. So I threw them in a mic, a lav pack, and an IEM, and I ran everything at once so this way I can just get a broad runtime of them all. And when I tested the Pro Cells out of the box, I was a little shocked that they were essentially overcharged. They read 102.2%. Now again, that measurement I had was a little, oversimplified, but it is not unheard of that a regular off-the-shelf battery is essentially overcharged. NiCads are really good in storing energy for a long period of time, so there's not going to be a lot of drain unless they've been hanging around for a long time. So for the test, I ended up running for 10 hours before I started seeing both microphones blinking. That indicates a low battery condition. And honestly, when the dust settled, the results were a bit surprising. So that first hour of discharge where you saw the greatest drop, and it happened to be on the NiCads. And as time marched on, and especially that home stretch of the last 2 hours, the NiCads were actually underperforming compared to the eneloops. Now, the one place where the NiCads showed a bit of better performance, it was inside the IEM pack. There's a bit less draw on the units itself, so you could probably go a bit further with the NiCads versus the eneloops in an IEM pack. Again, just because the amount of draw that's taking them. Now, the TLDR in all this is the eneloop Pros can hang with the NiCads, and once you get into those long run times, they exceed it. What makes this more interesting is that my eneloops are a year old, so they have some wear on it and they still outperformed. I'm a bit curious if I had a fresh set of eneloops, how much additional runtime I would get out of it. But let's face it, this is real world testing. You're not buying rechargeable batteries just to have one and discard. These are going to be hanging around a bit. Now, on to cost. When I originally bought my eneloop Pros, they cost me $64.11. That's for a package of 16, so that's $4 a battery. When I bought a new box of the Pro Cells just recently, that came in at $20.43 for 48. So that puts those batteries under 43 cents per. But once you do the math, it takes just 10 events to get your return on investment. And since the Pro Cells are rated for 500 cycles, you're going to potentially get 500 uses out of them, so that would equate to $212 versus $4. I mean, honestly, that's just a no-brainer in this case of the cost savings. Now, if you are going to invest in rechargeables, how well do they hold up to the rigors of the day-to-day use? Well, I'd put my experience as pretty good, maybe even excellent in some cases. The labelings, especially on the top of a couple of my batteries, the labels have peeled off, but you can pull that off. It does expose more of the top. Unless you're doing something freaky with it, there should be no negative effects with the surface exposed. Now, if you do invest in rechargeables, I do recommend getting a battery holder, just kind of to keep it together. They're pretty inexpensive. It adds a little bit of level of organization to it. It's just something to kind of keep everything together. So given the cost savings, the fact that they hold their own and then some against nickel cadmiums, like the best ones that are out there, even if you're only going to buy these for just 1 year, they're well worth it. I plan to keep these for a lot longer. You should be able to get 500 uses out of this, so you should be able to get years out of them. But absolutely, the eneloop Pro gets my enthusiastic thumbs up to use. Well, there's a video, and I hope you liked it, and if so, make sure you hit that thumbs up, hit subscribe below, head over to my Patreon page and support the channel. Naturally, if you like videos like this, check out everything else I have on my site. Thanks for watching.